Hi, my name is Steve Rahi. I'm a cloud solutions architect specializing in management technologies. Today's discussion will take a look at the enhanced inventory feature that was, as of this recording anyway, just released a month ago and available in Intune. So before we get started, I do want to call out the great contribution from Rudy Ohms. I hope I'm saying that right, and a link to the blog below. As I started preparing for this session, there were some different topics that I knew I wanted to cover, and I found Rudy's blog, and it really is fantastic. And so I used that for some of the illustrations in the session today. So I definitely want to make sure Rudy gets a shout out, and thanks a lot, Rudy, for publishing that blog. So on we go, right? So here's our typical agenda. What is enhanced inventory? Why do we care about it? How we can get it all set up and working, and then I want to show it to you. And then take you a little bit behind the scenes as we're starting to close out the session. So pretty easy. What is enhanced inventory? Basically, it gives you additional inventory options with Intune. So for many large customers, the configuration state that they're in even today is co-management, where a good amount of management is offered still via ConfigMgr, and then the rest is offered by Intune. There are reasons to keep ConfigMgr around in environments that have a history with ConfigMgr. One of those reasons is the incredibly robust ability to capture hardware inventory in ConfigMgr. So there are also organizations that only use Intune, right? And for those organizations, and really for any organization, having a more robust framework for capturing inventory in just native Intune is very compelling. Now, let me be clear up front. Enhanced inventory is not an equivalent to hardware inventory in Configuration Manager, but it is definitely an expansion of the kind of inventory capabilities that we have natively in Intune. It's really a welcome addition, and look forward to potentially some updates in this area going forward. So take a look, certainly provide feedback and such, and a very possibly exciting area to keep an eye on. Why enhanced inventory? Well, one reason, richer reporting. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, just a couple of bullet points. Greater insight into your environment and the devices that you manage, and cross-platform. So we're focused on Windows today. Again, this just released in December when I'm recording this in January. I'm recording in January 2025. It released in December 2024. So right now it's just Windows centric, but we do document that we will be supporting cross-platform iOS, Android, Mac OS. So keep an eye out for that. Mentioned on the previous slide, keep an eye out in this area. I do expect to see that there will be some updates. Don't know what they are yet, so I don't have any hidden insight, but just knowing how much this is a area that customers have asked for, I anticipate that we will introduce some other things here. That's just me, right? So it may not happen, but keep an eye here. At least the cross-platform stuff we know is coming. In terms of requirements, enhanced inventory is a core part of Intune. There is nothing else that you need, no extra licensing, no extra requirements. It just works for devices that are enrolled in Intune today. So that certainly is welcome. Very easy to turn on and to implement. Now, how does this work? So in a very simple way, you as the IT administrator will go into the Intune console and enable enhanced inventory. Very easy to do, incredibly easy process, right? When you do that, then the Intune portal or the Intune backend will send down an instruction using OMA URI, which that's through MDM, and also a piece on the Windows device called declared configuration to actually do the work to get the enhanced inventory up and running. When I say do the work, what do I mean? Well, when you enable enhanced inventory, we are going to place on your managed devices, for any device where that's enabled, a service called the Microsoft Device Management Agent. That gets installed, right? I'll show that to you. And then the configuration will come down at the same time based on what you've told the agent to actually go do. Then we'll go ahead and configure the enhanced inventory collection details, and then we will collect details every 24 hours on that schedule. So once you enable it, you can expect that you won't see data for up to 24 hours. May happen before that, may not happen before that, right? And then every 24 hours thereafter. Again, first, this is for Windows 10 and 11, but over here in waiting in the wings, we have iOS, Android, and Mac OS that's coming. All right, so that said, now let's get into the fun stuff. Again, really easy to kind of show this, how to go configure it. So let me pop into my Intune console, which is here, and I'm going to go down to Devices, and then Windows, since Windows is where we're working on this currently, and then Configuration. So I already have my inventory, my enhanced inventory set up here. But obviously, because I wanted it to be able to collect data before I did this recording, right? But let's go pretend like we don't. Let's go create a new policy. And I'll just select Windows 10 and 11, right? That's Windows 10 and later. And then historically, we had two profile types here. One is templates, and the other is settings catalog. Now we have a third one, properties catalog, specifically to support enhanced inventory, right? So with that said and configured, let's go ahead and work through the configuration. Here, we need to add the properties that we care about, right? So you can see these are the top level properties that we're able to select on. Now you can choose any one of these, all of them, half of them, whatever makes sense, right? And for those who are historically ConfigMgr people, this window will look familiar to you, not exactly like what you have in ConfigMgr, where you can select different properties to inventory and so forth, but it'll look at least familiar. And then under each category, you have different pieces of information that you might want to collect, right? And so you choose any and all of what you want. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I'll just choose one and select. And then from there, you can see that it's going to refresh every 24 hours for whatever I choose. Now, I have options here that I can basically not configure something, right? But if you do configure it, it's going to be on a 24-hour schedule. And then from there, I just do my assignments and deploy it, and off we go, right? Well, I've already got this one configured, so I will show you that it is set up and it is enabled for everything, right? Here's everything that I've chosen to go collect, right? So I'm getting every piece of inventory that I'm allowed to collect. It's gone out there. It's been successful on 4 of my devices. Didn't see that one. I wonder what happened there. Anyway, right? So that it's that simple. Configuring this is literally that simple, right? Now, let's see the results. Again, incredibly simple. So let's look back in the portal. And now we're going to go device by device. So let's go back to one of my managed Windows devices. We'll scroll down to which one do I want to use? Let's see. Probably this one. And if I look over here, you will see Resource Explorer. Now, interestingly, you could also have a Resource Explorer here as a result of being tenant attached. These devices never were tenant attached, and so they just have one instance of Resource Explorer here. And if I click into it, I basically see all the categories of what I've chosen. I can choose each one, and you see the data that I was returned, right? Just scroll left to right again. This should look familiar to those who are historically ConfigMgr admins. This is kind of the way it represents for ConfigMgr clients, right? And so whenever we have multiple instances, we will show it, scroll left to right, whatever, right? So you get the idea. Nothing here is really complicated, but what it is a fantastic way to be able to collect this additional information and hopefully open the door to some future developments that will even expand what we can do here. Again, don't have any inside information, but just knowing that this is an area of ongoing work. At least right now, we know that the cross-platform part is still pending. Hopefully we'll see some other things here, as well. Now, I'm looking at this device by device, and a question might come up of, okay, well, what if you want to look at this more holistically and kind of tie in some of this detail to other metrics that might be important for deployments or whatever? Can you see more than just one device at a time? And the answer is yes. Right now, there's multiple ways to do it. Whenever I get further in the presentation, it'll come up again, and I will talk about a little bit of that. Right, but yes, there are ways in which you can do that. And put a bookmark there. We will come to that in a minute. All right. Now, folks, that was a very quick, a very easy, short time frame to be able to show you enhanced inventory. But there's more to it than that I want to talk about, right? So this is a bit of the behind the scenes that we're going to start, in a minute, we're going to start getting into. And I want to use enhanced inventory to kind of give a little bit of insight into maybe how things work in the back end, right? So let's start by just rehashing, cross-platform. So that is coming. I've mentioned it already, but don't want to pass that. It is absolutely coming. Then, advanced analytics. So the question about whether you can use or view data more holistically and tie it to devices and so forth. Absolutely, you can do that. One way to get a look at that is through advanced analytics. Advanced analytics, part of the Intune suite, basically advanced analytics as of, I don't know if it's there yet or not, honestly, but it is adding the ability to query this enhanced data across multiple Windows devices. So you don't just go device by device. Then we also have Copilot that is in Intune, where we can go query this stuff using the Custo query language and Copilot queries and so forth. Asterisk there, I'm planning on doing a Copilot session next. So if you're watching this in video, next is relative, but it will be the next session that I record, right? There's also possibilities beyond. You could, now again, I haven't done this. I just, knowing the Intune product and how it works, you could use a Graph API to get access to this. You could use Graph to query the inventory and tie it to other data that you care about, right? There's other ways that you could query this out. Possibly log analytics. I don't know that one for sure. I'm going to find out. So maybe shouldn't have mentioned it. But bottom line, there's multiple ways that you can get at this data to make it in a format that you care about, right? Okay, now we're going to start to dig deeper. I want to use enhanced inventory as a way to kind of illustrate how some of the things work, on the back end. And calling back to the first thing that I mentioned as we got into this presentation, kudos to the blog that was written on this, because it was excellent. And some of these graphics, including this one, I lifted out of that blog just because it was a time saver and it was a great illustration, right? And so here's the first one, right? We need to configure enhanced inventory. We need to enable that on our managed devices. I've mentioned already that the way to enable enhanced inventory is through an OMA URI configuration that's deployed down to our devices. Now, if you should probably never have to worry about watching this kind of configuration change. But if you want to, then if you use tools like ConfigMgr or Procmon, and there might be a couple of others, then you can actually get insight as to what's going on your devices. This is actually the result of a ConfigMgr call. Here you see the OMA URI that we're calling, and you see the data, the configuration data that's coming down, right? Now, that's awesome if you need to troubleshoot. It's also not necessary to be able to see this. There's another way in the registry, I'll show you that one in a minute, that you can actually see this, okay? While we're here, though, let me pop onto the managed device here as an example and poke through a couple of things, right? So the first thing is, once we have enabled enhanced inventory, we're going to create a registry key. Oh, that's the wrong area. Let's go back up. That was something else I was working on. Here, right? This is the registry key we will create, which indicates enhanced inventory is enabled, right? Under this, then you can see certain detail. Now, some of this may not mean anything to you, probably won't, at first. But as you get familiar with the log files, and yes, there are log files, I'll show them to you in a minute, you might care about some of this information, right? So in this particular case, you can see that this is referencing a server that's part of this process. Basically, this is the configuration string. Details don't likely mean anything to you right now, but that's, what's there. Here we have, other detail, exception information, whatever. More information that you poke through, whatever. This, these things do mean things, but for now, it's not worth going into. What is worth going into, though, is this. This registry key reports will show you every single thing that has been collected in inventory on that box, right? Or on this box, right? Now, this list will correspond to how many selections you've made in enhanced inventory that you want to collect, right? So each one of these represents a checkbox in your enhanced inventory selection. If we look at this, we can see basically what we're collecting. So this is battery information, right? We can see some of the GUIDs associated with the policy ID and such. If we crack this open, we can kind of start to dig in. We can see some time instance data, the data that was returned about what we found, right, and so forth. And we just see that in the harvester status, also how we're doing. Here's some data related to that. Here's the uploader status. So basically the inventory information, the uploader information, and etc. On all things that we can kind of see through here. All right. This data, pardon me, is then uploaded to Intune. One thing that I didn't fully test, but I believe it would be totally workable, is if you were to delete this report, that would basically allow you to trigger a full hardware inventory again if you needed to for some reason. Don't know that that's the case. Could be the case. Haven't fully baked it yet, but I throw that out there as something to think about as possibly an option. Do it on a test machine first, just to make sure that nothing gets messed up or whatever. But something possibly interesting, right? Okay. So in addition to this, I mentioned the service, the device inventory service. And where? No. Okay. Is it Microsoft device? Yeah, right here, right? So this is a service that gets installed when you enable enhanced inventory. And if we look at properties, and it does need to be running, obviously. If we look at properties, we can tell that, hey, here's where the service executables or binaries are stored. So let's go look there, right? So we'll go under Program Files, C drive, Program Files, and here's our device inventory agent, and as promised, log files. So I'm not going to go through these in detail. You can at your own leisure, but this will show the processing of these log files. The blog actually does point out a few things that are interesting, in these log files, but you should be able to track the whole progress of inventory with these log files. Then a couple of other log files, this one that you can read as well, right? No problem. And you can see connecting, handling, blah, blah, blah. More detail here than maybe you want to read, but at least we have it. Now, also in here, we see moth files, right? Now, moth files should be very familiar to ConfigMgr admins, and I'm not going to go suggest you edit these. In fact, I would suggest you don't, but it's interesting to be able to take a look. If you know how to read moth files, there can be some very interesting information in here for you to learn about, right? So those are there and readable and so forth. Then, lastly, here's where our binaries are stored. Here's the executable for it, right? And then also here we have a SQLite database. This is where we store our information for inventory, or at least partially. I haven't dug totally into this yet. These are restricted, right? So you can't really open these. What I did do, though, is I can copy these out, right? And I copied these out. They're on my desktop. Here they are. And I found, and I've done nothing more than I just found a tool that will open these files. I don't know whether it's a great tool, the best tool. Don't know. I just found one because I wanted to look inside and see what this looked like. Right? So I'm actually going to make sure I copy this out fresh. I want to see you to see the whole experience. Let me get rid of these. And let me go back in here. I'm going to take these two and I'm going to copy these, and paste these out here to the desktop. And I'm going to get warnings because of permissions. I need to grant permissions to be able to do that. But now that I've done that, they're out here, right? And so I found this little utility, DB browser. So let's just do SQL DB browser for SQLite. Again, I make no claims at all about whether this is the best tool. I simply don't know, but it's one that I found that works. I'm going to open the database, and I'm going to go choose on my desktop this small one to start. And so I then can see basically the table structure of what I have with enhanced inventory. So these are all uploader kind of tables. And so this would be pushing, by the name, uploading data forward to Intune. We can see the kind of table or columns that are in the table, explore detail about it, whatever. You can tell there's no views or other things. There's also not any real data in here. Let's see. Oh, there is actually. Okay, good. So I'm glad I pulled it fresh. So I thought I had noticed that things had updated, so I wanted to copy them out there fresh. So here you can actually see the data that's out there and what happened last and different things, right? So interesting stuff. Now, you're not seeing the actual inventory, it doesn't look like. You're seeing the upload progress of that inventory. I'd have to well, maybe you are. So I'd have to dig into this more to play with it. I haven't done it. This is definitely inventory stuff. So, and if we go left to right, there's different information about it. So it does look like there is some. Here's some AirStat. Again, I haven't dug into this, but it's interesting to be able to browse through this. Definitely, I wouldn't change anything. I don't think you even can in a production database because you can't open it if it's in that folder. And then let's go look at this one. All right, so here we have just two tables, right? So again, you can see the columns. You can go to browse the data, and you can see all the information about what we've got and so forth, right? So just interesting to know how this is actually done, right? Okay. So again, information for you to take to understand how this works. Look at it at your leisure as you desire. It's fine, right? Okay. So let's get this out of the way. And continuing on just a minute, still in the digging deeper. So I mentioned that there is configuration that needs to happen in order to tell the enhanced inventory piece what to do. This is what's called a declared configuration document. There's a service on your Windows devices you may not even know is there that will handle these declared configuration files. And so you can see here that this is specifically related to enhanced inventory. So I mentioned in the graphic where I was showing just a quick overview how this works, that enhanced inventory is configured with OMA-URI to enable it. And then this document, this declarative or declared configuration document, will go configure what we want the enhanced inventory agent to look like. I showed you that you don't really have to see all the detail in here if you don't want to. We store that in the registry key. And again, thank you, Rudy, for taking these screenshots, right? We see this is the device inventory agent. We see the data in the same key, right? So you can definitely use the registry if you can find the location that you care about. And then finally, here is the declared configuration service. And so this is on your device, DCSVC. Again, declared configuration service. This is leveraged by Intune in this process, right? So I'm still learning myself about all of the details that go through the declared configuration service, but I thought this would be a good place to kind of illustrate that it does exist and one example of what it does. So I'm going to save this for now. And then finally, this little diagram, very top level diagram that kind of tries to tie all of this together. So we have Intune where we've configured enhanced inventory. And then we want to enable that on a device. So that happens two ways. OMA-URI to get the configuration down. And then also we use the MMPC component of Intune, which is another mechanism that allows data to come down. Think of it as an additional sync way, right? In the sync world, I just finished recording a presentation on the details of sync. For a Windows device, we have three ways we can sync. MDM, that's the one that has the lion's share of responsibility. Then we have Intune Management Extension, IME, which is next. And then we have MMPC, which is a relatively new entry into the category that's used for things like this, also endpoint privilege management, and there'll be other things as we go along, right? So MMPC, we use this. MMPC, the beauty of that component is it is really fast, has to be in order for endpoint privilege management to get its job done without causing confusion. So MMPC will get the configuration, throw it down to the Windows server for the declared configuration, and and quit. I'm keep hitting the wrong keys. Sorry, and that's how it gets down there, right? So it's kind of an orchestration of a couple of different things to make it all happen, right? And the last bullet that I have here is watch, right? Why? Watch, we've already talked about, we know that there's changes afoot for this component. The just cross-platform is one that we know is underway. And there could be other additions here. So just check back occasionally, see if anything's changed. Certainly keep in touch with the monthly releases of new things that are going on with Intune that the product group puts out and such, right? And that said, that is really what I wanted to share with you in this session today. It's not a challenging component to understand how to enable and how to configure and so forth. Really straightforward, really gives you some good value right away, but also a fantastic platform to talk about some other capabilities behind or other behind the scenes kind of things, and use this component as a way to illustrate it. So that said, we will end the session here, and we will see you next time.